Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes here, coming to give you another book review. Today we are reviewing Flyy Girl by Omar Tyree. Flyy Girl is a story that follows Tracy, a young woman in Germantown, a suburb of Philadelphia, who is coming into maturity during a time right before the crack epidemic takes over. So she's young and she is fly. And what fly means is she's young, she's gorgeous, she has all the newest flyest gear, she has the attitude to match, and she is not afraid to go after what she wants. This is what it means to be fly. So in today's term, you would call her a baddie. So the problem is Tracy comes into her own earlier than what many people do. So Tracy's running everything by the time she's 13, right? She hasn't even hit high school yet, and she has cemented herself as the flyest, hottest young thing around, who isn't afraid of anyone, who can get any boy she wants. Unlike other stories that may have a similar plot and storyline, what makes this story different is that she comes from a two-parent household and both of her parents work. So she has that immediate foundation, and I think that shifts all of the decisions that she makes down the line. So she has that confidence and certainty that comes from two parents who love you in the home, right? All of this shifts when Tracy's father decides that he needs a break. He's tired. He's been having to do all of this. He got married at a very young age. They got married and they never really looked back. And he's decided that he's had enough of this. So he leaves without leaving. He still pays all the bills. He pops up when he wants to, but he doesn't want to come home. And he stays gone for a very long time. And in this period of his absence, or semi-absence, seldom presence, this is when Tracy really is going through maturity and begins dating and seeking the masculine presence that she lost when her father left. She doesn't necessarily process it that way because she's young, but this is essentially what she's going through, and this is something that does get unpacked as the storyline continues. Now, for me, reading this book was so epic because I read this book when I was 12, I believe, the first time, and now as a full adult coming back and reading it again, it's such a different experience. I really found myself this time initially really engaged in the parents' storyline. And I know the first time that I read it, I didn't really pay attention to that. I didn't care as much. I was really focused on Tracy and her encounters and her escapades with the boys and the young men that she was dating. And granted, that was still super important and essential. That's the essence of the story. But really to unpack what her parents are going through, the decisions that they make, how the mother responds to the father's absence, and the rationale between the father's choices and the mother's choices, and how this impacts the youth, was something that I actually didn't expect to be so captivated with. I actually didn't remember all of the details because when I was younger, that just wasn't that important to me, right? And this time it was so significant. So that was something that was very different this time around. Also, just a lot of drama. I mean, having an adult and having siblings, what Tracy's mother goes through with her sisters in the very beginning is just something that I think we could all relate to, just having family and having to deal with different personalities. Because family is sometimes interesting. I often say that, like, sometimes family, you're grouped with these people that you probably wouldn't know if you weren't related, because sometimes you just don't have similar personalities or interests. So it's always interesting to have to navigate that, right? So that's just a little bit of the background. Now, the thread, the creme de la creme, the crutch of this story is when Tracy meets Victor. Victor becomes the only person who is her equal. And if anything, for a very long time, he is superior to her in his maturity and ability to manipulate the opposite sex. which is something that Tracy prides herself on being able to do. But Victor is that suave, super handsome, charismatic dude who is having sex with any and every young woman he pleases. But what makes that so interesting is that he understands the art of manipulation. So even before he physically has intercourse with them, he mentally manipulates their minds so that once the physical aspect comes in, they just fall head over heels because he's already stimulated them in another way. So he just has that down to a science. And Tracy, like every other person that he's pursued, falls for him and loses herself in that. But what makes her so different, and I think what makes their dynamic so intriguing, is that she always knows what it is. She never fools herself about it. But what she doesn't understand throughout the process is that he likes her too. So as these two individuals grow, you see them make different decisions, but there's always a mutual love, respect there, and maybe even a little always an interest and desire. But what I appreciated so much about this book with that storyline, and also just in general, is that we get to see these people live full lives. Obviously not the whole life, but we get to see them live full lives. We get to see them meet, fall in love, have that initial passion and desire. We get to see that wane. We get to see that grow over time. We get to see them drift apart, see who they become within those spaces. And then we have an ending that is left open. And it somehow manages to still be satisfying, right? I didn't feel slighted. Of course you want to know, I wonder what happened with that. Did they ever get back together? What was the final decision, right? And there is a second book that I will review, read and review. I know I read it years ago, but I have no idea what happened, y'all, honestly. That's just how long it was. Even reading Flyy Girl again for this time, I have forgotten so much, right? You remember certain pieces that really sticks with you, Like I really remember the storyline of Tracy and Victor, but I didn't remember the details. I remembered the feeling, how it made me feel, and the ways in which I could relate to the story. So that still held true today. Those are still some of the best moments. It's just them together. I always found myself wanting more of that, but understanding the scarcity of it, or that it wasn't overdone. And I do appreciate that they all were able to have lives outside of their interactions with each other, because that's what happens with life, right? Not everything is ideal initially the way you would want it to be. Sometimes people drift apart, sometimes they come back together, sometimes it's only for a moment, and you have to accept that for what it is. I also really appreciate about this book the fact that Omar Tyree tackles so many issues within the Black community, and just with people in general, but specifically to the Black community within that time. This is right before the crack epidemic, and then it actually moves into the crack epidemic and how things change and how it impacts the community. And I also love the fact that he includes Afrocentrity in there as well, and he eventually has Tracy visiting college campuses and how that changes her, and how intellectually she meets different people, and how all of these pieces shape her, and how as she's growing into a woman, all of these mistakes that she's made, how having her parents there, because they eventually do come back together, having her parents there as a unit, pulling for that and straightening her out that way. Now granted, I don't agree with every decision that they made, but having them there to support her, also having older people who were looking out for her and really encouraging her and broadening her horizons, how this inevitably led her to move forward and not be stuck down a path that other young girls have taken, and it completely derailed them from any futures that they may have. So I really appreciated the complexity and width and just breadth of this story. That's what I would say about this. And if I have any negatives, the one negative that I have is that in the very beginning, I found myself desiring for the author to show certain details and not tell them, not state them. I wanted him to be more descriptive. But I think that as the story progressed, either I adapted to his style of writing or he began to share more details, but either way that dissipated and I was able to fully get into the story and enjoy it. So overall, I love this book. I think I love it now more as an adult than I did as a child, which was crazy when I read it the first time. So I would definitely recommend reading this book. If I had to give this book a grade on A to F, it would be A. I would give it an A. I just absolutely would. I think it captures such an important time. It's a timeless story. And it's a coming of age story, right? But it tells it in such a way, it follows a journey that is very unique. In that sense, it's a treasure. Like, I think this is one of those books that should be treasured for the culture, which is why I also included it in books that you should read this Black History Month. And if you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. So yeah, y'all, I like the book. I think you should read it. I think everyone should read it. If you haven't, check it out. If you read it, you might want to pick it back up again because you may be pleasantly surprised. Those are my thoughts on Flyy Girl. I still have Children of Virtue and Vengeance, which will be coming out this month. And a book that's left over from January, the Stockholm Octavo. That book review is also still coming. And if you haven't, please remember to enter the book giveaway. You still have a little bit of time to the end of this month. Again, all you have to do is be subscribed to my channel and go under the books that I'm reading for February and tell me why you think you should be the winner of the Children of Virtue and Vengeance. So as always, until next time, please remember to like these videos, share these videos, and spread the word. Also, please let me know which books you would like me to review this year. Who knows, I might actually get to check them out. As always, until next time, please remember to give time and to have the best day of your life on purpose. Peace. Also, for those of you inquiring, I do still have buttons, my MsMalcolmHughes pens, and the details on how to get those are below.